Look out! The last thing you remember before blacking out was a shadowy figure approaching in the road in front of you. You heard your sister cry out as you swerved the car into a tree. You now realize you are alone. Your sister must have gone for help. You pry yourself free of the steering wheel and step out, intent on finding your sister. You find yourself standing in front of an old mansion. It gives you the creeps. This mansion is cold and foreboding. You sense great evil within. Nearby you find a pendant. As you pick it up, it begins to sparkle. Then the door of the mansion opens and dares you to enter.
Monday again, so let's get started. I'll turn down the music a bit. Alright, so last week we finished pretty much the whole mod pipeline and the entire chess mod. So now theoretically we are ready to play chess in the game. I guess let's just refresh our memories and look and see what we finished so far. Gotta build the second player game. And see, all the pieces are ready to go. Okay, well, we see there was some a little bit of weirdness about trying to capture another piece. Let's see. Okay, well there it worked. But anyway, we'll figure that out as the time comes. Today I want to mostly do the checkmate detector. And there's two main parts. The first is, of course, like finding out when you are in checkmate so that we can say if you won or lost the game. And then this second part is preventing you from moving your king into a checkmate position. And then, of course, I know checkers doesn't have anything like this, so we'll need to actually have where is it? Table of contents. Some kind of options for the win-loss condition. So let's add that, I guess, right now. So we'll go ahead and take it into account. Oh wait, well yeah. So we just want to use a string here because this is the actual object we load from the XML. So let's see, public string win-loss type. And then I guess we put it into the game database. Would have the actual win-loss type. So I guess we'll call this either call it checkmate or capture the king. I guess elimination would be if you have no pieces left. We'll just have some default option as of none. And then we'll add some field right here. Okay, and then we just need the mod translator to translate the string in the table of contents into the win-loss type. Where is it? Oh yeah, loaded. Table of contents. Win-loss type. Capture the king, and then we could also maybe call it checkmate. And this will set the database win-loss to the capture the king mode. And then checkers. She can't spell elimination today. Okay, and then, well, we're not doing validation now, so I won't, like, we'll need to throw an error if it's not one of these options in the future, but. And now let's go ahead and add it to our actual mod file. Let's see here. I'll put it up here. Okay. Oh yeah, we should say, yeah, we actually should change this to upper invariant so that upper and lowercase won't matter. Okay. Alright, so now we got that done. Now we gotta go into the actual game logic and start dealing with it. Okay, so first we need to have some kind of class that can look at the board state and decide if one of the kings is in a check position. So let's see. Let's call it check. Oh yeah, calculator. And this will work a lot like the move option calculator. So basically how this will work, let's go ahead and do some infrastructure before we figure out the actual algorithm. What we want is something can pass this calculator probably the piece and then some position, and then the calculator will be able to tell if that piece would be checked at that position. So let's see. So to return just true or false, and then it would give the piece index and then also the position that that piece would be at. Okay, so let's see, scene. Oh, I guess first let's initialize it. Oh, we need to pass it function. There we go. And then now we put it into the components. Registered component. Let's see. What do we call this? I guess what did I call the move option calculator? Okay. So I'll call this the check query. Alright, there we go. So now any object can call this function basically. And then this will be the at position. Okay, so how this algorithm will go is it kind of needs to loop through all pieces, and for any piece that's on the opposite team as this piece index, it needs to find all of its move options and see if it can move to this at position. So yeah, it's gonna call this function a lot, which is kind of complicated. Probably we should have it like cache these calculations because they don't change until the end of the turn. But for now, let's just for now we won't worry about it. Okay, so how do we start? So we'll have a piece, and this will be, well, let's call it the king for now, although it doesn't necessarily have to be a king. Okay, we also need the board. And in order to get that, we have to register to, let's see what I call it, setup, I think. Yeah, scene setup. Scene setup list, add ourselves, and that way we'll be called right before the first update is when this setup function is called. And that way we know that all of the components have been registered. Oh yeah, I need to... Oh wait, well actually the board... Yeah, board is created on the loading scene, so we actually don't need to do this. Because we know that it's been created before all this is instantiated, so forgot we changed that last week. Okay. Alright, So now this king is board. Pieces. Piece index. Okay, so we need a hash set. Oh no, we don't actually. I guess we'll just loop through every piece. Let's change this to king index to be less confusing. And then for every piece on the board, does it count? Okay. So if, well, I guess let's get the piece. Board pieces P, and then if the enemy player does not equal the king player, then we need to check this one. Let's see. So we need a list of in vector 2. Well, it's actually not. It's a list of move options. So we need to get this function. So private. Let's see, what is the footprint? Right, so now we do need to be set up. So the move option query is equal to scene components. And then we get the component. We've got to copy this again. Component keys, move option list query. Alright, so we got that set up. So now all we have to do is move option query. Right, so there's a lot of arguments here. Self piece. And the behavior ID is just the enemy.behavior ID. And position. Yeah, so for most of the stuff we're just gonna copy over the piece's data itself. What else does it have? Turn moves. Okay, so we don't have that information right now. I'll look into that in a second. And of course the owner player is just the enemy owner player. Okay, let's see. I know this turn chooser knows the number of moves. Okay, sub turn. Alright, so it just gets it right here. So now we can just go, I think, sub turn value. Okay, and so now we loop through each of the move options. And if the option position is equal to this at position we got here, then we know that the king is in danger. So we'll just return true. I wonder if, well, I can see that you might want to return a list of every piece that is checking you, but we'll just do this for now. Okay, and so one interesting thing is that the move option calculator will also, it won't let you move a king into a position that would put itself in check, so these two functions kind of rely on each other. I'm trying to think, is there any way that they could get into an infinite loop? Because you could think of a way that, like, maybe we won't call this check calculator on king units, because only if the piece is a king would it care if it moves into check or not. But I think in chess that kings can capture other kings, so that wouldn't actually work. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so in actual chess there wouldn't really be any, like, well, obviously you can't really have an infinite loop in real life, but there wouldn't really be the possibility of that because only one player can move at a time, except this move option query doesn't necessarily take that into account. So I'm just trying to think of how we would handle it. Also, I just noticed that we should actually, this number of turn moves should actually be 0 because it should always be 0 because we'll only be checked on the first move of the next player's turn, so we actually don't care about how many sub-turns have gone on this turn. I just realized. Okay. I guess how we'll do it. Okay, I guess how we'll do it that we should add another option here. Public bool. Check for I guess check for checks, because we'll just set this to false when we're over here so that we won't have any we won't have any infinite loops, and I think that the logic should work out fine. Yeah, I think it should be okay. Okay, so yeah, let's go ahead and add that logic to the move option calculator. And basically, what I think how it will work is we calculate everything normally, but then at the very end we go and remove any option that would result in a check. So let's we'll need this, let's call this check query. And then if check for checks. Then what we should do is basically for every option, let's see, where does this get oh, I put in the wrong thing. Let's go here. And then for every option in the final options, we will see if we need to remove it. Oh, I won't worry about. I was gonna have a list of places to remove because that's technically faster, but we don't need to worry about optimization yet. Final options count -1, and we should go backwards so that we can remove the options as we see them. Because if you go forward, then the way that the list works, you'll end up skipping some items as you remove them. Right, so let's see. Call it space, and so it'll be final options I space. Okay, so then we need, oh, we don't need a list, we just need to call this check query if Okay, so yeah, we call the piece, let's see, what is it, args, self piece, and then, yeah, this space. So if that's true, then we remove it from the list. Okay, well that was relatively easy. Obviously this is extremely unoptimized, because as I said, these functions are gonna call each other a whole lot of times, and they really should probably cache all their calculations until the end of the turn, but we won't worry about it for now. Because especially this move option calculator is pretty complicated, so. Okay, and then also in this turn chooser, we have to ask it to check for checks. Let's see. Only if the piece is a king. Oh wait, so I guess we actually have to go. Oh, do I not have a reference to the database in here? I guess not. Let's put it up here. Opponent keys, game database, and then let's see. Okay, so then if database behaviors piece behavior ID is king, then we'll check for checks. We should also only do it if the database win-loss condition is the capture the king mode. And then one last thing we need to do is in the chess scene we have to add it. So I'll delete all these comments because we know we won't need them anymore. They've all those objects have been moved into the mod loading sequence. Gosh, we're getting a lot done. Okay, is there anything else? Okay, let's run it and see what happens. Okay, yeah, we better rebuild the second player object. Oh, and then we need to copy over the chess mod. I think only the table of contents has changed, so. Okay, well, I just thought of something we forgot to do, but I guess we'll see. Make sure that everything still works okay. Oh, we got a null. Huh. Everything still seems to be working. I'll check that in a second. Oh, we got it here too, okay. Oh, because it forgot to get the query, I think. So let's see. Let's close this because otherwise it will complain. Size setup. I'll just do it here. function really should just pass the scene, I realize now, but and then so yeah, we need to get the check query. Let's see. I just want to get this handler or the type scene components and game. What is it? Oh, component keys. And then check calculator. Oh gosh. There we go. Okay, and then the other thing I forgot is I realized we forgot to set the king as a king. Or did I do that already? I don't remember. Okay, we did do it, so. Alright then. Oh, I do need to rebuild this though. Okay. So I need to get the king into some dangerous position. Let's see. Oh, I should probably get the queen out. Yeah, I'll try to move the queen right here, and then we'll see if it'll let the king move forward. Should not. Oh, it's throwing up errors. It still says that's null. It's strange that it's still letting that the game is still running with that with those errors. I register it right here. Yeah, it's getting no references. Wonder what's going on. Okay, yeah, so it seems to happen when I mouse over the king, which makes sense. Just don't know why this is null still. Okay, well, I'll just see if it's not null at that point. Still can't decide if it'd be worth the time to try and make it so we can control both players on one game or not. I'm still leaning towards no, because we do need to make sure all the like netcode works and stuff, so oh, I know the problem. You'll notice that this was never even called, and that's because we forgot to register right here. What if I did that? I didn't do it here either, so. Okay. Yes, let's rebuild that. This song sounds very familiar, but I can't quite place it. Okay, so I'll move. We want to let the queen get out. Right, so yeah. Move this there. And then move this forward. And then the queen will go here, and now the game should prevent the king from going into this square. Oh, well, that's weird. It says the king can move way over there. That doesn't make any sense, but huh. Yeah, all the other movement seems to be correct. I wonder. I wonder why the kings are weird. What? It seems like for some reason the king is like taking the movement of the last moved piece. It's really bizarre. Okay, well, let's test that out. See if I go like this and it says the black king can move right there. It doesn't. Oh, I'm clicking the wrong spot. Says I can go here. Which is bad because I could get that. I put myself in a check. Yeah. Okay. Let's turn this is king off and see if the bug has to do with that or if there's some weirdness going on in the king's movement table. Windows. Okay. Actually, don't need to rebuild this because we only changed the mods. so is there any? Okay, so it correctly says the king can't move right now. So I'll just copy what I did last time. Again, it says king can't move. Good. Okay, now the king can move one forward. Okay, so that works. So something is weird going on when I ask it, when I set the is king to true. Well, that's good to know. I hope that it wasn't a problem with the movement tables, because it's just a copy and paste of the queens except with no recursion, so that would be kind of weird. So let's see. So the only time that we modify the final options is just to remove. I don't know why that would. Let's see, actually. Okay, the reason is because the final options could have leftovers from the previous turn. Well, no, because they're always reinstantiated right there. Okay, well let's I'm gonna set this back to true and just see if we can see more of the bug in action. I'm not exactly sure where to start with this. Okay. Alright. Okay, so it starts off saying that we can move right there. Oh, actually, okay, I think I know the problem. It's because the final options is an instance variable, and then when we call this check query, it calls this function again, which resets the instance variable. So yeah, it's fine if visited space is an instance variable, I think. But I don't even know why we did this with final options, because we just create it every time we call this anyway. Maybe just so we wouldn't have to pass so many objects. Okay, so I'll just add this on at the end. Oh, it's not. Yeah, it's actually. a list of move options. Okay, so this should fix it. Because the only other instance variable is this visited spaces, and it is cleared right here before we do this check for check, so. Alright. Start up server and client. Okay, so right away we don't see that weird bug over here. So again, let's try to see if the checkmate detection works right. Okay, so now that I move here, the king should not be able to move this spot. Actually, I think the king just shouldn't be able to move at all, so. Oh, because we didn't rebuild the player 2 client. Okay, so let's try that real quick. Okay, one more time. Pawn out. Alright. Okay, so well, that's good. At least it's working well. It's giving the correct position even though it shouldn't be able to move there. So we fixed one bug but found another. So let's see. Let's debug. I'll just add a little log here. And then in order for that to show up, we need to, well, because we have to have that trigger in the editor, so I'll switch this stuff around so that it's the editor king that gets checked. So that out. Gotta let the queen out, and then I think that's just a dummy turn. Okay. So yeah, obviously nothing was removed because it says I can still move here. And then the queen can just capture me. Alright, well anyway, let's see. Trying to think what could even be the problem. Alright, so it gets the move options, and then if the enemy move option is this position, then it should return true. which would mean we should remove this move option. Well, I guess one thing we should see, let's just do a whole bunch of debug lines here. In fact, I'll just do a string builder. Let's see. Pinned. Check. Calculate for piece. And that is the enemy behavior ID. Oh, actually, it would just be the so let's do that, I guess. And then I want to add this every position here. Yeah, I was gonna just do it right here, but actually, since this can return, I want to do a separate loop. Not what that was about. Space. Alright, and then diluted bug. Okay. This will return a whole lot of strings and it'll probably slow the game down a lot, but we could just use the old build here because it's the same except for those debug. Yeah, I didn't want to do that. Okay, so yeah, so we don't really care at this turn. Move the queen. Okay, so now I think the queen is ID 4, so right, so this position is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 1, which is in the list. Actually, oh no, it's hard to see here, but you can see in the editor over here that the move option indicator pops up. Okay, so either so let's I guess we'll just add a debug here. check, calculated, true. Okay, so let's just restart this. Oh. Host. Player 2. Right, now let's move all the stuff out again. Okay. Okay, so even though here on the queen we should have gotten checked, it doesn't actually, like this never happens, so that means this app position must be wrong. Well, I should have had this right at the beginning, but alright, so now we gotta start it again. Alright, move the pawns out. Queen. Alright, so now we got that. Let's see what it says. Oh, it's saying 3-0. That's right. 0, 1, 2, 3. Huh. Is it letting me move here? Okay, that's not supposed to happen. Yeah, we should, yeah, to fix that, let's move the indicators, like floating a bit in the air. Or actually, just make them bigger so they appear outside the bases would probably be better. Okay, so well, let's not take any chances. Let's add the. I think the king is the biggest, so. Okay, still can't see it, so. It's probably going to be a bit too big, because I think 1 was the same size as a square. Okay. And you know what, we can make it a different color as well. Let's see. Okay, I'm just gonna something quick, and then change this color. There we go. It's Good enough. I guess, yeah, I better rebuild the game now. Oh, yeah, now I need to move back onto the right scene, the lobby. Okay. Alright, so... Okay, so it basically says you can move on to any ally, even though I think most of them say allies are not possibles. Yeah, because here, yeah, the require ally is always false, so... So let's see. Yeah, so this logic is true. So I bet maybe this piece on space. Okay, no, that's right. Oh. Wow, they both say enemy. How did we not catch that? Or how did I not catch that? Okay. Okay, so now it looks like it's all good. Except we're getting some argument. Okay, something happens when you mess over the king again. Move option calculator 60. Oh, okay, so this should actually be count -1. Oh wait. Oh yeah, I did this wrong. This, okay, it should be reversed because we're going backwards, so it should be while I is greater than or equal to 0. And then right here we decrement I instead of increment it. I'm surprised that didn't like make some bigger bugs, but had a bunch of strange things with this. Well, the move option calculator is pretty complicated, so I'm not that surprised. You always run into some problems along the way. Okay, so good, no bugs when I mouse over the king. Everything seems to be working. Just gonna test stuff here. Okay, so now it looks like it's working right. Okay, so now, yeah, the whole bug was just that it was only checking the last space in the list. So yeah, that was kind of silly, but... Okay, so now we found something we need to fix. If you select a piece that can't move anywhere, you basically soft lock the game because you can't do anything. But yeah, because we don't have any way to cancel, but that will happen at some later point. Alright, so now you can't check yourself. So let's see. You lose under capture the king, obviously, if you are in a checkmate. Which, and since you can't, I was gonna say that it might be more fun if we just let the game play until a player just happens to checkmate. I mean, until a player just happens to capture a king, but since we don't allow you to move into a position that would, you'd check yourself. That's actually a good point. I wonder, because I know one time, I think I remember this when I was younger and I played chess. I actually was checked, but my opponent didn't notice. So maybe we should have two options. We'll keep this logic here, and this will be for the, I don't know, strict chessmate maybe, or checkmate. And then we'll also have capture the king mode, where you actually have to capture a king. So let's add. Where'd I put the? Oh, right. Let's see. So capture the king, elimination. Let's see, I guess I'll just call it strict. I don't know. Strict checkmate is fine. So again, the difference is that in this mode, you only lose when a king is captured. In this mode, you lose basically if you can't move the king out of a check. What am I looking for? Oh, mod translator. So yeah, so these two should actually be the other mode. Okay, so, well, this one is simpler, so I guess we'll start with it. But we need to change, so we only do the check for checks, actually, if the win-loss type is the strict checkmate. Okay, so let's see. Right now we're doing the capture the king win-loss state, or win-loss mode. So when would we check? Well, we'd obviously, whenever a piece gets captured, we will see if that was a king or not. Let's see, and that happens in the piece mover. Okay, but then, let's see, how do we actually, how will we signal that the game is over? So the turn manager. What is this called? only here. Okay, so this is, so actually what happens is that, yeah, when the choice is made, okay, so what should actually happen is we should have a break here where, and then wait for the match manager to tell us to proceed with the next turn. So let's see. Again, this is complicated because in chess you can have multiple moves per turn. I mean, not chess, checkers. Alright, so I think in the match, and obviously the match manager already has this next turn command, so we just kind of need to rearrange some of this. So it needs to kind of remember what happened last turn. So I guess I can just store that turn choice. And then it should probably have, I was going to say it should probably have a flag for the first turn because then there wouldn't be a last turn choice, but it will know when it's the first turn because its turn value will be at 1. Okay, so let's see. Last turn choice equals choice, and then actually we better put this before. Okay, so if turn value equals 0, then we know the active player will be the first player. And that can go at the end. What is this -1? Oh, it's to start with that piece chosen, okay. Otherwise, need to do this. If piece, let's see, last turn choice. Okay, so actually we wouldn't increment, well, yeah, we wouldn't increment the turn. I wonder if we should maybe just have the turn and sub-turn combined into one counter. That'd kind of be easier to do because obviously we don't increment this value if it's part of a multi-turn. I'm trying to think what logic needs to have them separated. Well, I guess maybe what we'll do, yeah, we'll just always increment the turn, I think, but the sub-turn will actually be more something like sequential or same player turns, because I think the only thing that we need to that needs to know the number of same player turns is like the move calculator. So we can actually have just the turn chooser to keep track of that. It's probably better. So I'll comment this out for now. Okay, so now we do the last turn choice. Alright, so if it allows the multi-turn, then we send this command. So if it's not a multi-choice move, then that means we need to switch to the other player. And then we send this command, which starts the turn and lets you choose the piece you want. Alright. So now we need to have the match manager call this next turn command. Oh Jesus, lots of stuff gone here. Let's clean this up. This again was all the things we took out to go into the loading scene. Alright. So basically the next turn happens immediately after a piece is moved. Let's see when is what calls this. Okay, so only the turn manager does. Okay, so what the match manager can do is it can listen for this piece change position, and if the game hasn't been won or lost, then it will signal for the next turn to start. Scene components actually. So what do we need? We need to listen for actually both, but let's see. We'll start with the piece moved. So it's a messenger. And it sends the piece ID. Piece moved event, and then we'll subscribe new simple listener. Okay, so probably what would happen in the final game. Let's change that to something more descriptive. is that after the piece would moved, it would actually wait a bit here for the animation to complete and whatever else, and then it would actually signal for the next turn to start. But for now, we'll just go ahead and do it immediately. And then the other thing we need to do see piece captured. Well, actually, let's move the win and loss logic into some other object. So be sent a scene. Okay, so this should have some messenger. Oh, it should actually be the player. And this will yeah, so we'll send this out when the game has been won or lost, and the winning player will be, actually we should, is it possible to tie? In checkers, I don't think so. In chess, I don't think it's possible to tie in chess. Let me check that real quick, actually. Okay, it is possible for you to tie in chess, because you can, there might be no legal moves for a player, but they're not in check. So okay, so we should actually create an enumeration. Let's change this. Let's see, first player wins, second player wins, and then tie. Just so. I guess this would happen if you had to exit the game. So it'll actually send out this game over type. Not register change. It doesn't care about the type. Let's see, game over message. And then we'll just generate the enumeration. Okay. So we know this definitely needs to be setup. Because we need to be able to get or subscribe to other messages. So the first one we need, obviously, to check if a king was captured. Is oops, there we go. Component keys captured. You have a piece captured event. Subscribe, new simple listener. And then on piece capture. Oh, don't do that. So then it'll generate this event. Or method, I mean. Okay. Right, in order to check if that was a king, we need to have both the board and the game database. We can get these components here because we know that they were generated before the play scene starts. Oh, it's supposed to be components and then get component. Is it game board, not board? Okay, game board. And database, same thing. Right. So if board pieces captured piece behavior ID, actually we should probably simplify this a bit, but let's do it. Behavior ID. I can't type. And then if database behaviors behavior ID is king, then we send the game over message. Okay, well first we need, let's see the type, I guess. Okay, so we do need to have the actual piece. I was wondering if we needed to have a reference to the actual piece, but we do because we need to see what player had it. I'll change this ID. So now, oops, didn't mean to cut that. So captured piece, behavior ID, and then if captured piece owner player equals first. We can just actually we can do a switch statement. Okay, so if first player owned this king, then the second player wins. And then the second player wins, then, or the second player owned the piece and the first player wins. And we'll just say if there's some bug that somehow some other player owns this piece, then it'll be a tie. Or actually it'll be none because something's wrong with the game. Okay. Alright, and then the match manager needs to register for the game over message. Subscribe. New simple listener. Game over type. Then on game over. Okay, so now we won't do anything fancy, we'll just print a debug. And then set a flag here. Oop, private bool. Here it's as if it's not a game over, we'll call the next turn. Otherwise the game will basically just freeze forever. In the future we should probably send a message to the server just to make sure the games agree. Okay, so we need to, yeah, we only do this if the database win type is the capture king mode. Although we'll also use the same function for elimination. So I'm trying to just think over it and see if I missed any part. Oh right, in the turn chooser we need to have it not rely on this sub turn anymore. It should just keep track of it itself. And then private we'll just have so get rid of that. What does it call when the okay, start choosing. Okay, so we got if active player equals the last turn player, then we increment that. Otherwise, is 0, and last turn player becomes the active player. And the reason we need this is for checkers, basically. Because past the first sub turn, checkers can't just do a normal move, they have to hop over another. Okay, so I think we fixed that. So let's just one time run over the flow to make sure I didn't forget anything. So in setup, it calls the next turn command, and then the turn chooser does its stuff and calls the piece mover. And then it would call the piece change position, which the match manager is linked into. Okay, and then if it's not a game over, it calls the next turn command again. So I think it should all work. Only one way to find out, of course. Oh, let's get rid of this debug stuff in the turn option calculator. Actually, it was in the check calculator. build the second player. So we got something messed up. Oh, I think, yeah, in the chess turn, or chess scene, I forgot to add the win-loss calculator. What would I call it? Win condition checker. Alright. Okay, so player 1 will be the host. No, what's wrong? Or start it right there. Instance of an object. Well, it must be this. It would throw a casting error if it was the wrong type. Did I forget? No, I instantiated it right there. See. I'll just print this. So I won't rerun that because, I mean, rebuild the second player because we know something's up. Oh. There we go. Okay, so it does. Doesn't make much sense. Oh. Yeah, we didn't set the scene. Okay, that's annoying. Yeah, after this is done, I think I'll go and refactor this setup function to just have the scene as an argument because it's starting to be a bit of a pain. Okay, Okay, so now I guess I'll just run it one time to see what happens before I rebuild the player 2. Okay, so now it got this far. So we'll build this again. Start running the player 1. Host, client. Okay. Alright, so we're basically checking. So we want to kill the king. So I'll just make it easy. Oh no, I clicked the wrong thing. Okay. That's a shame, but we'll just kill it with a white player. Okay, so, right, yeah, because since we have it set to capture the king mode, it doesn't actually check to see, like it allows you to move into a position that you would be checked in. But after I capture the king, yeah, it says game over type, first player wins, and yeah, that won't let you move again. Okay, so let's try it one more time and let the second player capture the first player. Okay, so I'll move this pawn out. Okay, now here it says game over with second player wins, so it works, right? And again, it won't let us move again. Well, that worked pretty much first time, so. Okay. Let's see, is there some other, well, I guess the obvious next thing to do would be to implement the other win-loss conditions. Let's see what would be. Let's go back to game database. Alright, so capture the king is done. Elimination, that should be pretty easy. Okay, so let's change this to a switch. And then case, capture the king. I think I'll actually pull this out into another method. So you check capture the king. Oh wait. Then check elimination. And then I'll generate another method here. And then, so how this works is it finds the other player's team, or basically it needs to check to see if this captured piece, if its team has no more uncaptured pieces left. So let's see. For int. So we'll loop through all of the pieces on the board again. If board pieces feed up owner player equals captured piece owner player and not dot captured. Okay, try to make a rule that if I ever reference an object twice, that I try to collapse them into one reference. Right, so if this is true, then any alive is true, and we can break out of the loop. And then if not any alive, then we call the game over message. And again, we just if the captured piece on the player was first, then the second player wins, so on. Technically, there could kind of be a tie here if both players have no pieces left. But I don't think that could ever happen. You know, obviously you can think of some board game where that would happen, but with our rule set I don't think it's possible because only one piece can be captured at a time ever. Alright, and so the last mode. Okay, well I guess we should test this. Let's see. Well, it'd kind of be easier if we made a whole nother mod with just one piece, but since we only since we just automatically load this chess mod, I don't know if there's an easy way to do that, so I'll just have the white player go through and the white queen go through and capture all the other. Alright, and now we need to rebuild player 2. Okay, so I'll release the first queen. I don't know. Oh, it's just that the perspective makes it hard to click on the square sometimes. Okay, now we can notice, even though I just captured the king, it didn't say that it was a game over. Let's get rid of that. Alright, just a few more. More little pawns. Moment of truth. If this doesn't work, we'll have to make some quicker way to test this, but okay, yeah, it said first player wins. That's pretty... Okay, well obviously it won't let you move again because there's no other pieces for the second player to pick. Alright, so... the last option is the strict checkmate. And unlike this one, you don't really win, the other player loses. So you lose if well, basically all these modes, so we need to have some kind of, let me write this down so I don't forget. I'm doing this right now. We need to have, basically all modes need to have tie checking if no player can move, or if, let's see, how do you tie in chess? Okay, so yeah, you tie if the player whose turn it is can't move. If active player cannot move but is not in check, or cannot move but is not and will not be in check. So that will happen for all modes, because basically if a player can't move, then it's not really a fair game. But so the strict checkmate, you lose if you can't move your king out of a check. I guess that's what checkmate is. So it's basically if there is some move option, but the king can't move, is when you lose. So we would check for both of those at the beginning of a turn, or actually right before a turn starts. So it would also be, it'd be like when the, let's see, after a piece is moved. Alright. So on piece move, and then piece moved event. Okay. And I'll just move this down here. Okay, so this, yeah, we need to make sure that the match manager waits a bit, so let's just do some lazy flag here. Start turn next frame, because it needs to wait 1 frame, and then yeah, start turn next frame equals true. And there's a game over. We'll just set this to false. And then check that if the state is play. And then what's the start turn command? And the reason we have to do this is because if it just calls this command right away, then it might execute before the win-loss condition checker gets its events. So okay, so it needs to check for a tie, and then check for strict. Well, I guess I should check for strict first. Strict chess rules, and then because this is kind of like the strict chess is kind of like a subset of the tie conditions, so let's see. Oh, I'm actually out of time. Let me just remind myself. No movement options for active. Or I forgot for next turn player. Okay, so it's gonna need to somehow figure out what the next turn player is. So yeah, we'll need to move some of this logic out of here. It's not that difficult to do. And then what is it? Win condition, there it is. Oh wait, that's down here. So this is some movement option available, but none for one of the kings, because technically you could have 2, but or more than 1 if you're playing some weird version of chess, but if any of the kings is in checkmate, then you lose. Okay, so this also happens if not in checkmate. Alright, so this will be what we work on tomorrow. Okay, so again, yeah, thanks everybody for coming out. I know it's Monday, but I hope your day has been pretty good so far, and of course have a good evening or day wherever you are. And I'll be back here tomorrow at the same time. Yeah, please follow my channel if you enjoyed this and you want to be notified when I come live tomorrow. And then I'd also really appreciate it if you guys would subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I need to get a whole bunch of subscribers to get a custom URL, so that'd be really great. But anyway, I just appreciate you guys for watching, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Have a good night. Bye bye.